I'm Abhishek, and you're listening to Connected by mParticle, where we interview the people that help create some of the most beloved brands in the world. These folks have a unique ability to bring together seemingly unrelated people and technologies to deliver some truly amazing results. It's simply not good enough to just collect data, nor is there a one-size-fits-all solution to building experiences that consumers love. In this episode of the pod, I sit down with Julien and Vincent, two of the founders of Human37, to talk about all things customer data and how brands can develop a strategy that allows them to compete in an increasingly complex digital and privacy-centric world. Julien, Vincent, thank you both so much for making the time today. I know this was long anticipated conversation, so I'm excited to have you both on the podcast today.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So before I get ahead of myself, I always like to start off by sort of asking both of you, to introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll get into maybe a little bit about what Human37 and you guys do. So maybe Julien, I'll start with you.
Good. So yeah, Julien, I'm a co-founder together with Vincent and two other guys of Human37. I'm also playing the role of managing director for the agency. So that means that I mainly take care of, I would say, everything external to the company. So obviously everything new business related, but also partnerships, marketing, etc., etc. So that's what I'm doing.
Awesome.
And on my side, Vincent, so also co-founder of Human37 and technical lead at Human37, meaning that I do supervise technical implementations from small CDPs to bigger projects involving data warehouses, etc.
Awesome. So no shortage of interesting use cases and work in your world, Vincent. Okay, guys, so I have to ask, right? For the audience out there, what the heck is Human37? What do you guys do? What are you all about? I'd love to get sort of an overview.
Yes, so we call ourselves a customer data strategy agency. So what it means in a nutshell is that we help our clients define, design, implement, and activate their customer data strategy. So basically, what happened when we started reflecting about this project in our previous agencies, in our previous experiences, we realized that a lot of clients were collecting a lot of data, especially first-party data, because everyone was telling them to collect data, but actually they were barely doing things with it. So that was a point, while on the other side they had a lot of questions, and somehow if you would be able to make the link between the data collected and those questions, you would be able to answer most of them. So that was the first thing. And then a second point being that from an organizational point of view, we were seeing a lot of data initiatives, because it is true that over the last years there has been more and more initiative when it comes to data, be it analysis, be it visualization, be it activation related, but that most of those initiatives were really scattered across the organization. So IT was doing their own stuff, marketing was doing their own stuff, and even within marketing, you would have everything more acquisition that would have their own tool, their own data, and then retention working with their CRM and kind of being protective with the data that would have or not being able to share that with the rest of the organization. So that's a bit how we got to the idea of basically helping clients step back a little, align all entities, all departments, all teams, depending on the size of the company, obviously, on a common vision of where they want to go for everything that is related to customer data, what kind of experience they want to be able to propose to their clients across the entire customer journey, and what kind of business question they are asking themselves at the moment, and trying to use the data and the technology in order to help them basically deliver that experience and answer those questions. So that's very much what we do. We try to bridge business. So all departments active on the customer journey, be it marketing, retention, be it sales, support, etc., and more technical teams, so IT, data, product, in order to align everyone on a common customer data strategy. And then based on, because we always start from there, based on those business ambitions that are being set, identify what are how the infrastructure should look like, or how should the infrastructure evolve? Are there potential components that are missing, such as customer data platform, engagement platform, analytics solution? So helping them first design how that infrastructure should evolve, and then helping them implement the infrastructure. And then last but not least, and probably the most important, making sure that it is being used, and that somehow there is this notion of profitability of the infrastructure, or the license, if it's only a license of a single tool. But the idea that we don't have tools for the sake of having tools, nor we have data for the sake of having data. We do have them in order to create an impact for the business and be able to deliver better customer experience to the end users, and be positive, globally speaking, when it comes to that profitability. So yeah, that's in a nutshell where we come from, and what we are trying to do with our clients today.
I think that really sets the stage nicely, guys. And look, I think we're all fans of customer data here, and I think we can get into that. But I think, Julien, one of the things I loved about sort of what you said there is not just having things for the sake of having things, right? I think to your point, I think we all see that, right? We all have, I think the first inclination is we need a tool for this, or, we read this somewhere. And I don't think there's sometimes, particularly as organizations move to building more of their own sort of first party data strategy, and they say, hey, I want to own the customer relationship. I think that's where it's so critical, to your point, to be able to say, how can I tie the highest level business outcomes, right? Which is maybe ultimately growing revenue or reducing risk or saving costs, but how do I really tie that to all the different facets of the business and what they try to do? And I think, even in my experience, it's the part of that I think sometimes is really difficult, which I think you guys also solve for, is being able to look outside of a particular department or division, right? I think marketing may have, justifiably so, like very sort of, specific KPIs to their department, but how does that sort of interplay with like finance team? And then how does that roll up into sort of executive goals, right? And so, okay, I said a lot, I'm trailing off. I think let's bring it back to customer data. So I want to ask, and just because I know you guys work with a ton of different clients across verticals, industries, sizes, let me just ask like a really big, dumb, broad question. I want both of you to sort of give me your perspective. What is the benefit for brands who can successfully harness and understand their first party customer data? Like, why would someone want to sort of do this, and what's possible? And I know it's very broad. You guys can take it wherever you want to go.
You want to go, Vincent?
Yeah. So, well, I think there are different elements in there, right? So, and I will let Julien develop on these different elements, which are sorry, that there is the customer analysis part where you get insights about your customers, but there is also the fact that you want to make sure that you improve your assets, being web assets, communication flows, etc., being personalized, right? But when the two merges, being you do have more insight about your customers, you do as well, you do have improved assets, you can deliver better personalization, right? So I think personalization maybe not only is a buzzword, but is also a keyword. I mean, there is a huge hype behind it. Sometimes we talk about hyper personalization, but in the end, it's all about creating experiences where in the end the customer is happy about this experience, right? happiness, and you can measure happiness in different ways, or satisfaction. And from that satisfaction, you have different results, right? It could be retention, so users coming more and more or engage more and more with your brand. It could be as well that they are satisfied with your sales funnel, for instance. They really like it, and they do engage with other products or purchase more products, and increasing the lifetime value of these customers, right? It does as well, if you provide huge or great experiences, it does provide a higher NPS. And that's on the revenue side, right? But there's also things on the cost side. And on the cost side, you have things such as you have satisfied customers, and you need to spend less money on customer support and such things, right? Or you do have automated flows because you can grab all or unify the user interactions and user data. So for a CSM, it's much easier to interact with the user, meaning that that the CSM is to spend less effort in gathering that data, right? So that's on the cost saving side. So I think those are two important components.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, just look at the companies that have been able to, as you said, harness customer data and use that and put really everything actually customer, because customer data is obviously linked to customer, putting customer at the middle of their equation. They are the most successful out there at this moment. I mean, if you think about them, like we can like them or not, that's not the point. But the Amazon of this world, the Uber and all those players, they've been able to put customer experience at the center of everything they're doing, and making their clients' life as easy as possible, being able to re-engage them with relevant content that makes them come back, and at the end of the day, which makes them successful brands, against the more traditional players that stick to their model, that did not really put customer experience at the middle of the equation, and are where they are today. So either they're trying to catch up, or they are already somehow too late and they kind of missed the momentum to be able to still be something in today's world.
Yeah. I mean, just reflecting, and Vincent, thank you, because one of the things I heard from what you said, just in the examples you provided, right, about it helping customer support, it, improving operational efficiencies, even just some of the top line metrics that everyone cares about, right, like LTV, basket size, things like this. I think what's fascinating there is, oftentimes, like, I think we think of these as like a separate initiative, right, with like its own separate workflow. But what I'm hearing here, and I think Amazon's a really great example, by focusing on establishing a really great customer data strategy, you're not just benefiting particular initiatives, you're sort of enhancing overall the speed and the quality at which a business can operate, right? So if you're a business to consumer brand, this sort of helps all facets of your business, is what I'm hearing, right? And yeah, I mean, I think that encapsulates, I think, perfectly why, and maybe why we're seeing in the industry, maybe over the last 10 years, why there's so much more of a focus, and so many brands are trying to figure out, how do we, collecting is one part, right? And that's challenging enough, but really, how do we translate that to outcomes?
And that's the problem. Most brands stopped at collecting, thinking that collecting was the end of the game, and and that the fact that they were either collecting a lot, because that's been something at a certain time over the last years, or that they were collecting very accurate things, was again the key point to move forward, without really realizing that it's actually not at all that. It's just about, what are you trying to achieve from a business point of view, be it again answering certain questions, or what are you trying to deliver in terms of experience. Vincent mentions personalization and efficiency from an operational point of view, from plenty of different point of views. What are the things that you're trying to achieve, and from there, what are the data that you need to answer those questions, and how are you going to be able to collect and or connect the data together, and based on that start building the infrastructure, or start improving the infrastructure that you have, and start using it once the different components are out there. That's really I think probably the biggest shift that needs to happen in people's minds, in companies' minds today. It's starting from the business, and not starting from, yeah, okay, everyone is buying a CDP, then I maybe should buy a CDP too. Or everyone is trying to collect that kind of information, maybe I should try to collect. No, why does it make sense for you? Why should you put effort into that? What is the business logic behind the reasoning? And if you would start with that, then you're probably in the right way of being able to define what your customer data strategy might mean in your specific context.
Oh, great. Yeah, great words of wisdom. But guys, I want to jump into, and I know this is it's a very specific application of data, but I have to ask, because I think, you know, the world of advertising in particular has just, it feels like, you know, is, at least in my perspective, just seems to be making a monumental shift, right? I mean, from the world of, and this beautiful thing, which was, or very useful feature in advertising, you know, the cookie, right? And the third-party cookie, and being able to, you know, get sort of access to all of this third-party data. You know, now that we're seeing this shift, and I'm really thinking about things like, you know, Apple coming out with their ET tracking and their privacy policies, you know, Google announcing, right, that they're going to sort of eliminate, you know, third-party tracking across their browsers and devices. You know, where do you see the future of advertising moving for B2C brands? You know, and how can, I guess in a way, how can brands sort of start to adjust and think through, hey, if my advertising strategy was really based a lot on third-party cookies and third-party data partners and retargeting, how can I still deliver personalized ads and, you know, achieve maybe some of my, you know, user acquisition KPIs in this new world?
Just to get back on what you said, I'm not too sure that the shift already happened.
Yeah.
You said there is a mindset shift, because yes, indeed, Apple, ITP, and there are plenty of market move, industry move that are pushing people, or that are forcing people to do things differently. But today's reflex, at least in I would say European countries, Western European countries mainly, the reflex of brand is not, it's actually, okay, how can I find a workaround? If cookie won't, if cookie won't be able to be tracked client side anymore, can I go server side? Is that then something allowed? So I'm not too sure that at this stage the shift already happened. I think people are still trying to find original ways of reproducing what they were doing, or what they were successful at doing for the last 10 years. And I guess somehow it makes sense. Again, it's all about change. When an organization has been successful for a pretty large amount of years, doing some stuff and investing a lot of money into advertising, obviously, but not only into advertising as such, also in building up the expertise and experience around that, and understanding what works for them, from one day to another, almost telling them, okay, look, you won't be able to use that anymore, you need to adapt. Well, that definitely takes time. So yeah, what we believe for sure is that there is a need for that shift to happen still. And there is a need to, and it's going to tie back to what we just mentioned earlier, there is probably a need to move from a very quantitative to a much more qualitative approach, where up to now, because we've been in the advertising industry, we used to be managing actually an online advertising agency beforehand. So we've been pretty deep into everything advertising related, programmatic, Google Ads, Facebook Ads, and so on. So I think it's about up to a few years ago, it was okay, let's actually put a lot of money on the table. Let's try to bring people on the website. and let's try to make them convert. 1% conversion rate is okay. Anyway, if they do not convert directly, we are going to use cookies to do remarketing campaigns and bring them back up to the point that they finally convert. And that's where there needs to be a shift from quantity to quality, in the sense that instead of having a 1% conversion rate, which might be a representation, or at least I'm going to use it here as a proxy of a bad experience. Brands now need to realize that they might only have one chance to either make them convert, or at least to identify who a user is. And that ties back to the whole idea of customer data, first-party data tracking. And what is certain is that they need to provide a very good experience, because they might only have one chance to somehow convince the user to be willing to interact again in the future with the brand, be it through the website, be it through another channel, that doesn't matter. So that means that instead of pouring a lot of money into advertising and not caring too much about what kind of experience do I provide on my website, they should focus on, okay, let's make sure that the experience that I provide is top notch. And if that's the case, then if my conversion rate goes up by a few percent, then I can also, in order to remain break even or stable over time, decrease the investment that I'm doing from an advertising point of view, because I need less people on my website to achieve the same objectives. So that's probably, again, the shift that needs to happen, or at least that's how we're trying to that's what we're pushing and educating the market on our side and our clients. And that's probably the biggest challenge for everything advertising. It's not going to disappear, but there probably needs to be a rebalance between everything that happens before and everything that happens after the advertising, the impression, the click, and all that kind of metrics.
And to maybe continue on what Julien said, so I do agree, right? So the change has not really, or the shift has not really happened yet. Change in behavior and how you approach things being one of the components, the one Julien mentioned. But I think there is also another aspect or reason why the change didn't happen yet, which is the technical solution to that. There is no paradigm yet, right? So we have been used to solid ish paradigm where we used third-party cookies that work for everybody. Everybody used that as a basis for multiple purposes. That's a kind of a standard on the market, and the next standard is not defined yet, right? So I think for the shift to happen, we still need to wait for that technical standard to make its place on the market as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and Vincent, who knows, right? Maybe it's clean rooms, maybe it's something else. I know there's the ad tech whizzes of the world are sort of figuring this out, but something you both said that I think I'm really glad you said it, right? Because I phrased the question as though we've already moved on, but I think the message maybe is there's optimism, right? It's not too late, right? So for brands that are sort of still heavily reliant on this sort of outsource kind of third-party numbers game, if you will, Julien and Vincent, right? Like maybe if I blast if I get as many impressions out there, as many, ads out to as many people, 1% will convert, and that's okay. But I heard two things there. One is, hey, you still have time as a brand to sort of make this change, right? It's definitely coming. As we, analogy I use is like the toothpaste is already out of the tube or coming out, like it's not going to go back in, but, you still sort of have time to make this transition. And I think I really love the way you guys phrased it. It's really not, it's about sort of having a healthy relationship from a budget perspective, from a resource perspective with your advertising program relative to all the other levers you can pull as a brand, right? Because the things you can control are how relevant are is your messaging and brand to the right people? When they do discover your brand, how relevant and personalized and sort of what is the quality of the experience you're giving people once they land on your sort of domain or property? And to your point, Julie, I think you're a big fan of saying, hey, if those things can improve with the brand, then maybe that conversion rate doesn't have to be 0.5% or 1%. Maybe we can get it to 2 or 3. And that's really what can maybe help a brand sort of become unstuck, right? Unmarried to maybe a disproportionate relationship with online advertising.
Yeah, because let's also be very honest, and I know a lot of them. There are some business that have been built upon those advertising giants, the Facebook or the Google of this world, that were lucky enough or smart enough to be there when it was still relatively cheap, and where you could get conversion for a super light price, and basically you were able to ramp up a full business around the e-com business, mainly around putting advertising on Google, on Facebook, and getting people to your website and having them convert. But now that over the last years, everyone is now making advertising on Facebook, and price increased because of that. Now there are a lot of brands that have created such a big dependency on those players, that the whole context and the whole price is putting their business at risks just because of that. And that's a pity. That means that indeed this is definitely not healthy as a business to be as dependent as a single source of acquisition. And I believe it's a lesson for a lot of people to make sure that the purpose is not to grow fast, but it's to build steady foundations. And that's true for business as well as it is true in the world of customer data, or in the subsection of everything customer data related. Having strong foundation to make sure that you can absorb and you can scale in a healthy way, without being dependent on a system or another, or a person or another person. It's a teamwork.
Yeah, it's an awesome perspective, and that whole quality over quantity play, I think is, to your point, right? That sort of world of, and it was maybe a cool time to be in advertising, but this whole, sort of role of even like a growth hacker, right? Maybe that, that role sort of gets redefined a little bit now, or maybe in the near future than what it meant over the past 5 years or 10 years. So
yeah, has it even once been properly defined? I'm
yeah,
not sure.
I don't know.
They've always been vague enough to be able to do everything. So
Yeah.
I guess it's gonna stay like that.
Sounds good. So, all right, guys. So switching back into something, and Vincent, maybe I'll start with you on this one. On a practical level, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys see brands struggle with when sort of building a customer data strategy?
Yeah, we do face, I think, all sorts of challenges, right? Sometimes they're technical, sometimes they're business related. And so I think it's usually a mix of them. And I think one of the most common challenge that we do observe is that and I think that's a problem Julien mentioned already, is that you interact with the customer and then you realize that all the initiatives that are being taken, they're not under the same umbrella, right? Or not even under the same initiative. So they're very scattered, right? Which is, I do think it's fine to have different initiatives, right? So we definitely, in our approach, and so that's something we do praise, is like, okay, let's have small initiatives and then make them evolve step by step. But these initiatives, they need to come from a long-term vision, right? So they need to be fed by either the same data or at least the same vision, so they can converge to the same objectives, right? And what we do observe is like, okay, IT has some initiatives, business some initiatives, maybe legal some initiatives as well, right? And then they're all scattered, and that's, I think, one of the main issue we see. Another issue would be on the technical side, right? So we ramping up from zero or from very old legacy systems to top-notch systems is not something you do in 2 days, right? It needs quite some time, and we do observe sometimes that there is this hope that one solution will solve it all, right? So no, it's not plug and play solutions. It's about the vision again that you have, and how you can implement this solution to support you in migrating from legacy systems to something that is maybe more up to the standards of the market right now, right? So it's again about the vision from a business perspective, but as well from a technical perspective, where we see, okay, there is this legacy system, the 2B system, and how you go from one to the other is really about how you want to tackle this and how you envision the future for your company. I think those are the two main changes that we observe, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and to add on the lack of vision, it's also, as I said earlier, people do things because other people are doing the same thing, not because they believe it's the right thing for them to do. And there is this whole notion of being a follower, because people are almost a FOMO kind of thing, where people are afraid of losing something or missing something. And so making choices that might make complete no sense in their context, but still doing them because hey, everyone has a CDP now, so we need to have a CDP too.
Yeah, lots I can say about this topic, but I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I think one of the key ideas is this is not what we're talking about. Customer data strategy is not something that really you could say only impacts one team, right? I mean, maybe if it was like, hey, I need to buy a new legal software to sign documents faster, that you could argue is maybe just something the legal team can make a decision on or should have some influence over. A customer data strategy is not something that just touches one department. So I think, but what I heard, I think, Julien, what you said throughout this whole call, and Vincent, you just reiterated, is oftentimes, though, different departments, different groups within an organization have their ideas, their maybe KPIs or what they want to do, but oftentimes these decisions or these KPIs are not linked to some greater vision, right? It really is just sort of a siloed decision-making process. So maybe what I'm hearing here, right, is I think part of what an organization can do is, and I'd be interested to hear your guys' perspective on how you facilitate some of this, or maybe how brands can do this, but different groups in an organization need to have some form where they can talk to each other and need to be able to say, hey, orange that I'm trying to solve for is actually your apple, right? Like, or this initiative, if we, sort of work together, can actually solve both of these or deliver both of these outcomes for us. And so maybe, Julien, I mean, I'll lead you there. Like, from your perspective, how, have you seen or strategies that organizations can use to bring different stakeholders together to make decisions, but also who typically does need to be involved, right? Like, who are the people in brands that should be talking and working together when thinking about, a better customer data strategy or talking through these KPIs?
Yeah, I think on the how, actually, again, now if we look at clients we are covering, so mainly Western Europe countries, Nordics, a bit of the US. There is actually the how we are getting people together, or not we, but how brands are getting people together. That's probably the biggest challenge, because often within organization, that's something that is missing. There are people that are working for a department and then there are people that are leading the department, and then those people are reporting to directors and potentially C-levels. And there is not really someone or something that is responsible for looking at things not from a vertical way, but from a very transversal way. Or if they are, obviously C-level is responsible for that, but they are responsible for it from an operational point of view. While here we're talking about how we can feed operation with, let's say, analytical capabilities, if we take analytical in its broadest definition. So that's the thing. Some companies do have CXO, so a chief customer experience officer, and probably that's the closest match to what would be needed and the team and the needs that could be created. That would be the closest match to ensure that this horizontal approach is being done. But most of the time where we sit, be it a CXO or be it even a chief data officer, they are rather let's say firemen trying to understand a bit what happens across all the organization, but they don't really have the mandate to bring everyone together. And it's also a big responsibility to ask a single person to be responsible for an entire vision of what should the customer data strategy look like. So the way we try to approach things is rather it is a collaborative exercise that needs to be done. What we bring is a methodology to make people from different departments, and we can get back to the departments, and because that's going to answer your second question on the who should be part of that. But it is about the methodology of bringing people together to reflect on what are the business objectives that we need to achieve on the long term, what are the current challenges that we're facing, what is our current context, and what are the priorities that we should set from a business point of view, from which we can then derive the reflection on what data do I need, what technology am I potentially missing from a collection, from a connection, from an activation point of view, and how should then both my business roadmap and my technical/technological roadmap be defined. So it is more to that extent that we are playing a role trying to bridge that gap actually that is currently happening at client side. Then when it comes to the whom, as we said in the beginning, the purpose is to bridge business and IT for sure, business and technical, not IT, because in technical you have more than just IT. But within business, you would have everything marketing oriented, and in there you would even have sub categorization, everything more acquisition related, everything more retention related. You would have everything more customer support. You would have the sales. You would have obviously potentially support teams that exist, operational team if some operational team exists, and then you're gonna have on the technical side more the IT, the data teams, potentially the product teams if there are product teams, and then last but not least, we talked a bit about it, but also everything legal, DPO and whoever, because they also need to have their voice. At least they need to be aware that something is happening, because if you do your job well along the way, you basically almost do the job for them of documenting what's happening and why it's happening and stuff. So yeah, I think it's first on the methodology on how to bring people together that is key rather than a person. And then two, there is a broad set of people from a business and a technical point of view that needs to be involved. And the last thing is probably that it requires a commitment also from a management point of view. You need to have the management embarked, while, because we said it is not a vertical responsibility.
Right.
It is an horizontal responsibility. So it doesn't matter if they are actively taking part of the brainstorming, but they need to be supportive, and they need to validate somehow the mandate that, okay, there are people that are responsible for that, and once it's going to be defined, we are going to commit on the resources that are needed to make it happen, because this is key for us as a business for the future.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things I'll say, so I sort of have a hypothesis on this, that need, right, that sort of need of having somebody at a strategic level, but also a functional level, be this sort of almost program project manager of this initiative across departments, I think is so neat. And I'd almost say, you know, it's guys like you and Human37 that really, in my opinion, are best suited to sort of fill that in, because I will say that you guys can disagree with me, but one of the things I see in sort of just my role as a CSM, right, is sometimes if an initiative is led by marketing or product, you know, it can be perceived as, you know, hey, this is maybe not my initiative, right? This is marketing's initiative. So why should I be like equally invested, right? It doesn't, I feel like when these things happen internally or try to happen internally, I think what's harder still is sometimes just those inherent human politics, right? It's the perceived bias of this is benefiting one team over another. What I sort of love about working with folks like you on accounts is that I think oftentimes you guys can come in as a neutral party, right? It's like, hey, I am not biased towards product or biased towards marketing. We really have been brought in both to talk to senior leadership, but then also to work on the functional level to ensure data strategy is met. That benefits everyone. It doesn't, sort of affect one more than the other. But yeah, what do you guys think about that?
Well,
I'm very biased towards.
no. That makes a lot of sense. So the neutrality, I think, and the holistic and the objective view of things, that makes a lot of sense. But we still do require, and it is one of the commitments that we ask our clients, to have a counterpart, to have someone that is dedicated to ensure that the whole, because we can be, and we try to be as much as possible, an extension of our client's team, but we remain an external party to some extent as well. So we need to have a counterpart, which is the main stakeholder and responsible from an internal point of view at client side for making sure that everything happens. And move forwards and is coordinated, and that whatever needs to be communicated is properly communicated, etc., etc. So it's not, I don't believe that an agency solo can come bring a vision on what the strategy, customer data strategy should be, help implement it. That cannot work. There needs to be a strong commitment from client side at every level.
And and that commitment also, it's not a one-off, right? So it's commitment over time, right? Because it is not something you do one-off and then, okay, we're good to go for the 5 next years. It's, no, okay, you need some processes. You maybe had a strategical discussion on some topics, and that's fine. You don't need to reiterate that strategy thing for every year, but the operational aspect of it is that you still need to make sure that the engine keeps running over the coming years, right? So so that's why this commitment is over time and not only one-off.
That's awesome perspective as well. I think for a brand listening, it's yes. I think a team like Human37 can really make a lot of impact and show you the way, but ultimately that interest and the actual work and the commitment has to come internally. I think it's so desperately needed in this industry that it just feels like it's constantly changing, to have a team like you guys and a service like you guys to be able to help brands. But I want to ask you, like, what's next for Human37?
So growing, that's what's coming for sure. I mean, we are working on exciting projects. We have a lot of exciting projects that are going to come for 2023. So I would say that that's the big focus: building a team. We've grown from 0 to 10 in a matter of a little bit less than a year, which is for an agency a relatively good pace. So
congrats.
As we said with the business, but with the data strategy, the same applies here. We want to build strong foundations, so we focus a lot on the team. We want to keep growing the team, so we still recruit new people to join us. And then on the longer term, it's definitely moving on internationally, growing internationally, physically, because today as we said, now we already operate internationally, but everything is being done from Brussels, and we move to London, to Amsterdam, etc., depending on the needs and on the client. But definitely growing internationally is one of the big projects we want to focus on in the future. And then growing from a service point of view as well, be it horizontally or be it vertically, adding new service lines on stuff that we are not doing yet, additional technologies that we do not master yet, or indeed within a certain vertical that we already master, going deeper into the value chain, more partners, etc. So yeah, a lot of things ahead of us, a lot of opportunities. So yeah, future will tell where that will bring us, but we are very excited and positive, generally speaking, and that's the most important.
Amazing. Okay. All right, guys. So this is every guest on the show sort of plays this little game. So I have rapid fire questions to wrap. Most of these are just yes or no, or binary, right? One option or the other. Promise they'll be fun, but maybe to kick off, pineapple on pizza. What is your opinion on that?
For me, no go.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So a nice split there. Vincent, you're okay with pineapple. Julien, never on pizza.
No go.
Okay, all right. So I'll start with Vincent first, and then Julien. Ronaldo or Messi?
Ronaldo.
Messi.
You guys just can't agree on anything. It's tough. There's that's can't go wrong either way. Okay, let's see if we can get a match here. This time, Julien, I'll start with you. Frozen yogurt or ice cream? If you had to pick one.
Ice cream.
Okay.
Ice cream too.
All right. We got a match here. So,
We get a match on food.
Awesome. Well, I 3 for 3. I mean, I agreed on the ice cream part. I think if I had to pick one for the rest of my life, there's way more flavors, diversity in ice cream. Final question before I let you guys go. I'm the biggest foodie in the world. At some point we have to meet up, and I would love to take you guys out. But favorite restaurant in Brussels?
Who starts?
I'll leave it to Vincent. Vincent first, and then Julien. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for Harvest. This is they work with seasoned food, fine food, and I had definitely my best entrance there.
Amazing.
For me, the name is Barge. Relatively small restaurant going gastronomy. They have one menu per day, 5 or 6 course. Also very local and very much into, we buy a piece of meat and we are going to use it and really they buy the whole piece, the whole animal, and then on the Monday you'll get that side, and then on the Tuesday you'll get another one, etc. So I like the vision, the philosophy, and then food is amazing, and wine is also very good because they have a very good selection there.
Very important. Well, guys, listen, we'll have to come on over and see you guys, and who knows, maybe it's Harvest one night and Barge the next, but those sound like fabulous recommendations. Vincent, Julien, just can't thank you guys enough for your time. I think there was really a lot of food for thought here. Just a lot that I think brands can think about.
Thank you very much for having us. Good discussion, and happy to plan a part 2 if we further need to discuss some elements.
Thanks so much for listening to this conversation from Connected by mParticle. For more on this episode, you can check out the show notes and transcript on our blog. You can also subscribe to the podcast on any major podcast player. If building great customer experiences is important to you, sign up for our monthly newsletter, mPulse, which includes a very short list of the best blog articles, use cases, and industry reads from throughout the month. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.